Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a spiritual framework that is absolutely fascinating, highly specific, and frankly, pretty uncompromising. To be clear right off the bat, the source material we are unpacking today comes directly from the writings of Life Shan founder Xu Feng. We're looking closely at his text titled, If You Don't Know the Second Home, How Can You Know the Path to Heaven? It's a really bold title, right? And as we'll see, it offers a radical critique of how almost the entire world views spiritual cultivation. So let's jump right in and look at exactly what Xu Feng argues is the one true blueprint for reaching heaven.
Su Feng actually kicks things off by throwing down a direct challenge to the reader. Think about it for a second. How many people out there are actively striving for a heavenly existence? They're meditating, studying, maybe isolating themselves. But Su Feng comes in with a seriously disruptive question. He asks, if you are completely unaware of this specific concept he calls the second home, how can you possibly know the path? According to his philosophy, millions of dedicated seekers might be going about their journey entirely the wrong way. So let's get into the specifics. Section 1, the quest for heaven and the 4 hard criteria.
To really understand why Life Chanyon founder Xu Feng believes traditional methods fail, we first have to look at his incredibly strict prerequisites. Getting to heaven, in his text, isn't just about being a good person. It requires meeting 4 what he calls hard criteria. Number 1, you must have absolutely no remaining mortal ties. Number 2, you have to completely repay all debts from accumulated past lifetimes. Number 3, you must reach a state of complete selflessness, totally egoless. And number 4, which is kind of surprising, you must truly know how to play. And here's the kicker. Xu Feng insists that there is zero possibility of hitting these benchmarks without his specific second home lifestyle.
Which brings us to our next point. Section 2, the flaws of traditional paths. Now, you might be wondering, well, why can't I just achieve those 4 things in my normal life? The source text aggressively deconstructs that exact idea. To show how impossible the first criterion is, ending mortal ties, Xu Feng uses this brilliant, vivid metaphor. He says trying to sever worldly ties while you're still living in the secular world is literally like trying to wash your feet in mud. It's a great image, right? How can you possibly get clean using the exact same dirt that made you dirty? The environment itself makes it completely impossible.
He then tackles the second criterion, repaying accumulated spiritual debts. Xu Feng argues that if you stay in normal society, trying to clear your spiritual ledger is fundamentally flawed. He compares it to borrowing money from the East just to pay off a debt in the West. Essentially, you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're shifting the debt around within a broken system, not actually clearing it.
And that brings us to the third criterion, complete selflessness. Is it even possible to be truly egoless in regular society? Xu Feng's answer is a resounding no. He uses this incredibly striking, paradoxical image, comparing the effort to trying to lift yourself off the ground by pulling upward on your own hair. It really highlights the logical and physical impossibility of doing this within traditional societal structures.
But why exactly is it impossible? Well, Xu Feng argues that the secular world runs on a very specific program. And in this program, having at least some ego and selfishness is literally a requirement just to survive. If you actually manage to become 100% selfless out in the traditional world, the system would crush you. You simply wouldn't survive it.
Okay, so what about the 4th criterion, knowing how to play? You might say, hey, I go on vacations, I watch sports, I know how to play. But Xu Feng draws a hard line here. He argues that society's definition of playing, things like racing cars, bungee jumping, or hitting the casino, is actually just thrill-seeking. The text explicitly states that this is not true play. In the Life Chanyon philosophy, unless you've experienced the specific entertainment within the second home, you fundamentally don't know what true spiritual play is. So if normal society doesn't work, what about religion? Section 3, why scriptures and monasteries aren't enough. A lot of people believe that studying sacred texts is the golden ticket to paradise, but Xu Feng directly calls this out. He lists major scriptures like the Diamond Sutra, the Bible, the Quran, the Tao Te Ching, and he states that just reading or understanding these principles won't get you to heaven. He bluntly calls that idea a dream. His core point is that knowing the theory is totally useless without actual practical achievement. Reading isn't doing. Okay, so reading isn't enough. What if you physically retreat from the world to a monastery or a temple? The text asks a really thought-provoking rhetorical question here. When the Creator made humans, was the grand design really just for us to hide away in monasteries?
Xu uses this slightly humorous, everyday analogy to answer that. He says everything created has a specific purpose. If you build a kettle, you build it to boil water. You don't make a kettle just to shove it into a dark closet so mice can build a nest inside it. In Xu view, retreating from active life to go meditate in a monastery is exactly like being that unused kettle hosting mice. It completely misses the point of human creation. The text goes even further to address traditional moral teachings. Xu acknowledges that concepts like benevolence, righteousness, being a good person, or even upgrading your dimensions are, in his words, good. But he doesn't budge on his main thesis. He firmly states that no matter how good these moral frameworks are, they still will not lead you to heaven. Moving on to Section 4, having nothing, possessing all. This is where the philosophy really hits its climax. So, if traditional society fails and traditional religion fails, what exactly is the required state of being? Xifeng says the ultimate portrayal of a heavenly lifestyle is captured in this core paradox: having nothing, possessing everything. To reach heaven, you must achieve this exact state. But look at the contradiction we run into in the real world. If you try to have nothing in traditional society, you just become a beggar. And even a beggar isn't truly empty, right? They still need a bowl or a walking stick just to survive. Or worse, the text points out that if you truly possess absolutely nothing in regular society, you'll simply die. So you're stuck in this impossible paradox. You need to be selfless, but society won't let you survive. You need to have nothing to possess everything, but having nothing just gets you killed. So what's the actual solution? That brings us to Section 5, the second home solution. The ultimate answer proposed by the Life Shanyuan founder is the second home. And this isn't just a metaphor or some vague state of mind. The text defines the second home as a very specific, practical production and lifestyle model. It's a tangible environment built specifically to resolve all those impossible paradoxes we just talked about. In this model, Xu claims you can be totally selfless without dying and have nothing while actually possessing everything. But crucially, you can't just read about this model. You have to personally enter and experience it. And that leaves us with this final, uncompromising thought from the text. Xu concludes that without understanding and personally entering the second home's mode of life, absolutely no one can go to heaven. It is a massive, bold claim that challenges centuries of traditional thought. Does his logic regarding the paradoxes of traditional society resonate with you? Is a totally new, practical lifestyle model the only way out of the mud? It's a pretty fascinating framework to ponder. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.